Right now, something remarkable is unfolding in the world of hypercar rebuilds. Matt Armstrong is already in Miami, standing inside a workshop preparing for the final stages of one of the most talked about independent hypercar rebuilds ever attempted. The crashed Bugatti Chiron, owned by FXLXG, is close to being finished. After months of dismantling, engineering solutions, and working without factory support, the rebuild is approaching the moment that will determine whether the project succeeds or fails. If Matt manages to complete the Chiron and get it running again, it will prove something manufacturers have always tried to control: that even the most complex hypercars can be rebuilt outside factory walls. Before we dive deeper into this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss updates on this rebuild and the next epic Bugatti project. And if that happens, another Bugatti story is already waiting in the background. Because while one YouTuber is finishing a crashed Chiron in Miami, another has already taken a gamble on a different Bugatti entirely. A gamble that might be even more dangerous. It was McCann who made the decision that most rational people would avoid. He didn't buy a running, fully documented collector-grade hypercar with pristine service history and factory backing. He bought uncertainty. He bought complexity. He bought what might be the cheapest Bugatti Veyron available anywhere in the world. And with it, he accepted the kind of mechanical and financial risk that only a handful of people would even consider. On the surface, it looked like an opportunity. Veyron values have been steadily climbing. Once dismissed as depreciating technological experiments, they've matured into modern classics. Early cars that could once be found for under £1 million are now comfortably beyond that threshold. Limited supply, historical importance, and the sheer audacity of the engineering have reshaped the market. So when a Veyron appears at nearly half the prevailing value, it demands attention. But price gaps in the hypercar world rarely exist without reason. This particular car hadn't been properly driven in over 3 years. It wasn't parked and preserved. It was dismantled, partially stripped, components removed, hardware bagged and boxed. It had passed through multiple workshops, each leaving its own fingerprints on the project. Work began, then stalled. Diagnoses were made, then questioned. Promises of completion dissolved into silence. By the time Mark acquired it, the Veyron wasn't simply a non-runner. It was a mechanical question mark. The central issue, the one that overshadowed everything else, was the gearbox. The car would not engage reverse. In ordinary vehicles, a reverse problem is inconvenient. In a Veyron, it can be catastrophic. The Veyron's transmission is not an off-the-shelf unit. It was engineered specifically to survive the extraordinary output of the quad-turbocharged W16 engine, producing 1,000 horsepower and immense torque, delivered through a dual-clutch system designed to operate with surgical precision. Every shift depends on hydraulic pressure routed through microscopic channels. Every component is built to tolerances that leave little margin for contamination or error. Replacing the gearbox outright could approach $300,000. That number alone would stop most projects immediately. The original explanation for the failure sounded almost trivial: galvanic corrosion between a steel sump plug and the aluminum gearbox casing. Over time, dissimilar metals can react, effectively bonding themselves together. When removal was attempted, the plug seized and had to be drilled out. During that process, small fragments of metal may have entered the gearbox casing. In a conventional gearbox, debris might cause wear over time. In the Veyron's transmission, debris can block the fine hydraulic galleries responsible for actuating gear selection. If even one channel becomes partially obstructed, gear engagement can fail. Reverse, in this case, became the casualty. At some stage, the gearbox had already been opened and repaired by Verde supercars. According to their account, a weak reverse solenoid had been identified and replaced. They reported successful testing, claiming the car moved both forward and backward after repair. If that version of events is accurate, it complicates the narrative. Why would the problem resurface? Was the original contamination never fully resolved? Did another component fail afterward? Or was the issue never solely mechanical? Eventually, the gearbox was removed again and sent to a specialist in Holland. There, a drivetrain expert disassembled it with painstaking care. Inside, evidence of contamination was found. Partial blockages in hydraulic channels consistent with the swarf theory. The gears themselves showed no catastrophic damage, no shattered teeth, no dramatic mechanical failure. Structurally, the unit appeared fundamentally sound. However, the clutch assembly told a different story. Localized wear patterns suggested uneven loading or imperfect engagement. While not destroyed, it wasn't something anyone would confidently reinstall. Given the cost of reassessing the gearbox once installed, replacement became the only logical option. And that introduces another complication. Bugatti does not freely supply major drivetrain components to independent rebuilders. Unlike mainstream manufacturers, Bugatti operates within a tightly controlled ecosystem. Official service centers have access. Independent specialists often do not. That means critical components sometimes have to be reverse engineered and remanufactured. Gaskets, seals, clutch plates. Each piece must match original tolerances precisely. Deviations measured in microns can lead to hydraulic inconsistencies, pressure leaks, or premature wear. The rebuild becomes less about replacing parts and more about recreating factory-level precision without factory-level resources. Testing presents yet another obstacle. The proper Veyron gearbox test bench, capable of simulating full power loads, exists only with the manufacturer. Without it, there is no way to replicate real-world 1,000 horsepower conditions outside the car. This means the first true test will only happen once the gearbox is reinstalled. And reinstalling a Veyron gearbox is far from simple. The rear of the car must effectively be dismantled. Structural components removed. Cooling systems disconnected. Wiring looms carefully detached. Accessing the drivetrain resembles controlled deconstruction rather than routine service. If the gearbox fails to engage reverse again once fitted, the entire process must be repeated. Financially, the rebuild estimate between $10,000 and $20,000 seems almost merciful compared to full replacement cost. Yet that number exists within a broader financial context. McCann already has nearly $1 million tied up in this car. Purchase price, transportation, storage, diagnostics, partial rebuilds, and the costs continue to accumulate. Yet the potential upside explains the gamble. A fully functional, properly documented Veyron commands serious money in today's market. Beyond financial appreciation, it represents a milestone in automotive history. The first production car to genuinely break the 250 mayth barrier under official testing. It forced the entire automotive industry to rethink performance limits. Owning one isn't merely about speed. It's about possessing a piece of engineering audacity. For McCann, the project carries narrative weight as well. It's not simply about restoring a hypercar. It's about proving that even the most complex machines can be revived outside factory control, but the outcome remains uncertain. Soon, the rebuilt gearbox will return from Holland. Fresh fluids will fill the system. Hydraulic circuits will be bled. Electronic controls calibrated. And eventually, the decisive moment will arrive. The selector will move into reverse. If the car rolls backward smoothly, years of doubt collapse into relief. If it refuses, the story resets to uncertainty. Because the cheapest Veyron in the world rarely remains cheap. It either becomes the smartest purchase in the room, or proves exactly why it carried the discount. For now, the outcome remains unwritten. The car sits between past complications and future possibility. And McCann stands at the center of it, having chosen risk over caution. Soon, the machine will answer.